Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking something that's honestly a giant puzzle for a lot of people. It's a deeply personal, super complex, and let's be real, frequently misunderstood psychological topic. It's a subject that touches on human identity at its absolute most fundamental level, and there's a ton of nuance to explore here. We're going to look directly at the psychological frameworks used to understand gender identity and the heavy pressures surrounding it. Our goal today is to break down the clinical perspective clearly and objectively, and just kind of untangle the nuance step by step.
So here's the big, profound dilemma we're tackling. Is what a person is experiencing a true intrinsic gender identity, or is it actually a desire to escape from overwhelming societal pressure? Now you might be thinking this is just some academic debate, but no way. Countless individuals, their families, and therapists are literally wrestling with this exact question every single day. Getting to the heart of this distinction is absolutely crucial for figuring out how best to support someone who is navigating these really intense feelings.
Okay, let's dive into part 1, genuine gender identity. We really need to understand this internal reality first. Clinically speaking, when we talk about a genuine gender identity, we're really talking about endurance. It's defined as a long-term, totally stable feeling of belonging to a certain gender. It's this intrinsic, deeply rooted sense of self that actually often pops up very early in life. The absolute key clinical marker here isn't just the feeling in the moment, it's the permanence. It is definitely not some short-term emotional fluctuation. It doesn't just come and go with the weather. So what are professionals actually looking for? Well, they look for a specific clinical triad. First up, persistence. Like we just said, it sticks around. Second is explicit internal cognition, basically a really distinct, unwavering conviction of, I am meant to be another gender. And third, this is usually anchored by profound physical or social gender dysphoria. This isn't just someone saying, I hate society's rules. No, it's a deep-seated identity colliding head-on with tangible, internal distress.
All right, let's pivot to part 2, escaping gender pressure. This is all about the heavy weight of societal expectations. We all know society applies immense external pressure, right? Rigid stereotypes, like the classic men absolutely cannot be vulnerable or women must always be submissive, they can literally act like a cage. Now, when you combine that cage with gender-related trauma or just a profound inability to adapt to those prescribed roles, a person might naturally look for an exit door. It's a completely natural human reaction to look at a crushing environment and ask, would my life just be way easier if I were the other gender? In this scenario, the main driver is escape, not an intrinsic identity.
And the contrast between the two is actually pretty striking once you lay it out. Genuine identity, that's an internal, persistent reality, totally anchored by genuine dysphoria. Escaping pressure, on the other hand, is a situational reaction. It's a massive dissatisfaction with external stress. And because it's tied to the environment, it fluctuates when that environment changes. Plus, it usually lacks that constant, persistent physical conflict we talked about earlier.
Which brings us to part 3, the complex gray area. Because spoiler alert, human psychology is almost never black and white.
Here's the messy reality. These two experiences can and frequently do coexist. Imagine someone with a true, deep-seated transgender identity who is also simultaneously fleeing immense societal pressure associated with their birth sex. That happens all the time. Conversely, you might have someone who starts out simply feeling stressed and suffocated by rigid gender roles, but during their whole process of questioning and exploration, they discover, wait a minute, I actually do possess a genuine different gender identity. Because these experiences overlap so intimately, trying to make a simple, snap judgment is practically impossible. You can't just put people in neat little boxes. So, how do the pros handle this? Let's look at part 4, professional assessment methods, and see how they go about untangling this knot. Professionals actually untangle this methodically, step by step. They start with long-term observation. They want to track stability over time. Next, they test for environmental consistency. Like, does this identity hold strong everywhere, or does it only spike up during moments of super high stress? Then comes what's often the most revealing phase, reducing external pressures entirely. If you take away the stress, does the identity stick around? And finally, they evaluate the feeling of relief. That profound sense of calm a person feels when they actually express their true gender is a massive, massive indicator.
Moving on to our final section, part 5, focusing on well-being. This is where we take a really pragmatic perspective.
There has been a huge paradigm shift in clinical practice recently. Instead of aggressively interrogating a patient to figure out if they're just escaping, mental health professionals are now focusing on 3 highly pragmatic questions. 1. Are their current feelings genuine? 2. Will their choices lead to a more stable, healthy life? And 3. Has there been adequate self-exploration supported by a strong network? You see, the priority here is actual human well-being, not achieving some kind of perfect textbook categorization.
Does their choice make their life more stable and healthy? Honestly, this quote is the ultimate guiding star. Whether the origins of someone's feelings are purely intrinsic, or if they're this tangled, messy mix of identity and societal pressure, at the end of the day, any intervention has to prioritize the health, stability, and happiness of the individual above all else. That's the real bottom line.
Which leaves us with this final, incredibly important thought to chew on. Do we, as a society, focus way too much energy on finding the perfect label, rather than focusing on actual human well-being? We spend so much time debating categories and analyzing motivations, but honestly, maybe our time would be way better spent just ensuring people have the support they need to live stable, healthy, and authentic lives. It's definitely something to think about the next time this topic comes up in conversation. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, keep asking the important questions.